Thank you for staying with us. You're watching the Front Row, where today we are discussing the unemployment crisis in the country. What are the solutions? What way forward for Kenyans? And we have a very rich panel that is helping us get to the bottom of this. Well, to get back to this discussion, remember you can actually participate on our social media platforms at KT News KE. Our hashtag for this discussion is the Front Row, and I can see your questions are coming in thick and fast. Well, before we take some more feedback from our panelists, let's listen in on some of your questions that you're asking on Twitter platform. Well, we have a couple of questions coming in. There's Godfrey Omo, who is saying, the leaders have indeed failed. They're planning to give us a constitution instead. We have another question here from Matthias Mheshimiwa Letipo saying the Kenyan government has been instituting monetary policy to address the perpetual challenge of inflation. It is high time now for the government to solve the issue of unemployment through the stimulus of monetary policy. Well, I'm sure Mr. Gishinga will have a reaction to that one. We have another question here from Mogoi Atos saying the national government continues to provide a conducive environment for youth to create jobs, and that includes Youth Enterprise Development Fund. Vijana, let us utilize this. That's a comment. Well, we have one more here from Engineer Wycliffe Kipsang, who is saying Public Service Commission internship program. It is a good program. The government started by government to curb the rate of unemployment. It should be pushed now to absorb all 6,000 interns who are yet to complete one-year internship. They've gained experiences. Well, those are some of your questions, your comments, and we have some more questions and observations on our Slido platform. There's a very interesting comment here from Stephen Wafula, who is saying, Jambo, hi, vijana tumeumia sana. Mimi nilitoka NYS some years back, nikatafuta kazi na tupwa nje, ati sina experience. Vijana tutapata wapi kazi? That's just to give you a sense of what the young people are talking about here on the platforms. Well, Mr. Gishinga, very interesting comments coming out, and I'd like to hear your views on what the youth are saying when it comes to the various mitigation measures towards ending unemployment.
Well, I think the questions are perfectly on order. Let me start with Michael's point about why government is not creating enough jobs. And this question perhaps represents the biggest misunderstanding we have in Kenya about who creates jobs. It's not the role of government to create jobs. Private sector has a much better track record in creating jobs and deploying innovation. So the role of government is in creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. And how do they create that enabling environment? They need to look at the monetary policy and about circulation of cash. If you look at really our monetary policy in Kenya, we only look at inflation. We do what is called inflation targeting. But many countries around the world have what is called a dual mandate, where they look at inflation and they look at unemployment, because those two are equally important and have to be explicitly targeted. And that's what in economics we call the Phillips curve. Our CBK has to every month tell us our target for inflation is X percent and our target for unemployment is X percent. Until we get to that position, we will constantly be in this place where we are saying government creates jobs, but the government cannot create jobs. Only private sector has the innovation to create jobs.
All right. So from where you sit, Ken, will we continue having a jobless generation based on the fact that government can only create a certain number of jobs, whereas private sector is supposed to drive this?
I think there is a change of heart in government. I really liked it when the CBK governor said that you can't eat GDP. And for me, that was a turning point, because for the longest time, ministers always used to tell us about GDP growth without telling us about jobs growth. So the fact that the Bureau of Statistics is also publishing jobs reports, even though it's quite slow, I think it shows we are still heading in the right direction, but we have to step it up. Okay. We need to have monthly briefings, and we need to see which sectors are doing well and which sectors need support.
Thank you, Ken. And Madam Jacqueline, looking at what Ken is talking about, it creates opportunity for development organizations like the one you work for. What is your role into the future of work in Kenya, especially in creating job opportunities, at the same time empowering young people to become self-employed, to be able to be entrepreneurial and invest in the right sectors?
I think for the NGO space, and I've just noted even as Ken was speaking, while it's not the business of government to create jobs and theirs is to create the enabling environment, that's particularly keen for the NGO sector. There's been a lot of hue and cry about the shrinking space for civil society organizations, yet they play such a critical role in terms of promoting opportunities for young people to access either credit by taking them through trainings or linking them to employment opportunities and taking them through training skills that are going to help them access job opportunities, which is what we've been doing at Youth Alive Kenya. And not so much for the casual jobs that were being spoken about, but we also need, when we talk about youth employment, we need to talk about decent work. Yeah, work that makes somebody be proud to say that they have a job. We are struggling with that a lot in this country, but we've seen a lot of success, particularly even with the county governments in Kisumu. The county government in Kisumu has been very useful and a great partner for us in terms of helping the young people in informal settlements and those that come from the marginalized area in Kisumu, Siaya, and Kakamega. So we've seen successes there, and we know that if we can be able to replicate that across the country, then there's hope yet.
Okay. Governor Alfred Mutua, what do you see in your crystal ball when it comes to a Kenya that will be fully having youths who are in gainful employment, and at the end of the day, our unemployment numbers are able to shrink to numbers that will only be saying we've made significant milestones?
For me, it is, I was looking at statistics earlier on, and they're talking about 36%, nearly about 40% of our people in Kenya are poor people. That means you're receiving less than, $100 a month or so, or a day, or $1 a day. I mean, very, very little money. When I drive through the streets of our big cities, Mombasa, Nairobi, Kisumu, Machakos, not as much in Machakos anymore, but you find that in Nairobi, there are so many young people standing by the roadside trying to sell wares. Na mtu anakaa hapo the whole day, they make 50 shillings. When they make that 50 shillings, they go back to their kitongoji duni, or 100 shillings, and then they wake up tomorrow to do the same thing over and over again, living from hand to mouth. These are people that I feel have been let down. There's been no cushioning. And we saw that with COVID, where there's no cushion, whereby jobs are closed, and nyumbani COVID imeingia, and people start starving. So the government starts running around saying, let us feed people, let us take them bills, let's have a fund. There's no cushioning. Other countries, you look at what happened in South Korea, in Singapore, in Australia, they gave money to people so the people could go to work. In Australia, for example, companies were actually given by the government 50% or more of the salaries of the employees, so that the employees are not fired, so they continue working during this COVID era. In the US, you've got the unemployment benefit. So you're not at work, and your job skill is not needed. You get about $600 to $1,000 per month, plus retraining as you look for a job so that you can fit into the marketplace. So a lot of these initiatives that you're talking about are initiatives that need leaders who understand them, not leaders who just know how to incite people, incite youth, use the youth for politics, tupa mawe, gonga mtu watu, and then at the end of the day, they are there with the statistics. Gishinga is talking about talking about economic growth, 5% or whatever, talking about the unemployment of 8%, and you look at those statistics, and I like his example. It says, people cannot eat GDP, people need to eat bread. And when I look at forward, as I conclude, is, as a politician myself, I'm very hopeful. And when I decided to throw my hat in the ring and say that I want to be the next president of this country, when I see myself being where Obama was when he said it can't be done, and I look at the number of young people who do not know tribe, do not know family affiliations, I feel there is hope. And I know that come 2 years, Kenyans will be looking for a leader who understands how to increase the amount of money in their pocket. It's not badly off. The program that Uhuru Kenyatta has started within his very bureaucratic government is a good program. We neglected Vision 2030, and I was one of the people who wrote the concept paper for Vision 2030 when we used to call it Vision 2020 with Ambassador Mudaura. And so it is not all lost. If we push the reset button, we tell these guys, you've spent 60 years running this country, you've done a good job, but the world has changed. We need a new generation taking over. We need mambo fresh. We need a fresh beginning.
Thank you,
Kenya
Dr.
needs to start afresh, and that has to be an economic start. We've had physical freedom. Let's get economic freedom.
Thank you,
Let's
Dr.
get economic independence.
Thank you, Dr. and we appreciate your comments and your insights. Well, we want to wrap up this discussion, and I'd like to bring in Ken. Take us home. What way forward after all is said and done in terms of tackling this ticking time bomb, the unemployment burden?
Well, we have to leave it with a story of hope. And Kenya is a country with incredible potential. We have a very young population. Our median age is about 19 years. These are young people who want to go to university, want to build businesses, and find peace and prosperity in their lifetimes. The government needs to really pay attention, because these can be a demographic dividends. So many of the big American brands, Chinese brands, are coming to Kenya, to Africa, because they are seeing a very young, dynamic population. So if we put our economics right, there is plenty of hope for Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. Gishinga. And last but not least, we have Madam Jacqueline. Your closing thoughts in under a minute, and then we take some comments as well from Wilson, who was joining us on Zoom as well.
Okay. I think Kenya is not short of policies that are progressive and that could actually deal with the issue of unemployment amongst young people. So it's about time we stop writing things and just shelving them and actually start implementing. And lastly, let's put money where it actually counts. We all know the sectors that, and the government especially knows the sectors that are booming: agriculture, construction, technology, tourism. But instead they prefer to put money where people are going to slash grass. So let's put money where it's going to count and where it's actually going to benefit young people.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, Madam Jacqueline Madenge. And last but finally, that is Mr. Wilson on Zoom. Utaambia nini mavijana tukimalizia?
No. It's simple, mavijana pale mtaani. The hope has still to be there. We have to keep working hard to create our future. But most importantly, the government should create an enabling environment for private sector and everything. The only way to create that enabling environment is to get rid of corruption and get the money that has been stolen back to this country to be invested, so that those jobs in every sector of the economy zinaweza kupatikana.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and for your insights. This has been Front Row with me, Abi Agina. And let's keep the conversation moving on our social media platforms. It's been a pleasure. See you next time.